When the godfather of draft talk puts out a mock draft, you want to see what your team picked. And when you're talking about it, you do your best Mel Kiper impression as well. His latest mock draft has the Texans getting help at an intriguing position, but I am not in on the approach that Mel Kiper has for the Houston Texans, and I'll explain why after we talk about who Kiper picked for the Texans. Now, it's no secret, after trading Laremy Tunsil and the issues that occurred in 2024 on the offensive line, the Houston Texans need help on the offensive line. Well, that's exactly what Mel Kiper went and found them in his latest mock draft. Josh Simmons, the tackle from the Ohio State University. And Kiper, of course, notes giving up Laremy Tunsil, moving on from him. The issues with the offensive line in 2024. Josh Simmons is the pick for the Texans. Simmons can play left tackle. Simmons can play right tackle for the Texans right away if, and that's a big if, the knee is okay. As Kiper notes, the only reason he didn't have him getting drafted earlier than 25th overall is that he has a significant and serious knee injury. Went down in October, hasn't worked out, and says he'll be ready for his pro day next month, Simmons does. But that remains to be seen, and it was a serious knee injury. It's worth noting Kiper's mock draft still has Kelvin Banks Jr. from the University of Texas available when the Texans are on the clock. So Kiper specifically picked the risk-reward player in Simmons, where the reward is if he's a really good player and healthy, that's a big hit for the Texans. The risk, of course, is that knee. Now, what exactly is that knee injury? Now, Simmons hurt his knee against Oregon, and initially everybody believed it was an ACL injury. Now, the problem is it wasn't an ACL injury. It was a patellar tendon issue, and it led to a patellar tendon surgery. And as the doctor here that I'm going to show you, Dr. Nirav Pandya, who I went and double-checked just to make sure this wasn't some person pretending or posing on the internet as a doctor. Patellar tendon tears over the past 15 years in the NFL lead to a return to play rate of around 50%, and a lot of times with a significant drop in performance. Techniques have advanced elsewhere, not so much in patellar tendon issues. Now, people who are Texans fans for a long time will remember the patellar tendon tears that Derek Newton suffered when he was the right tackle of the Texans. That was, of course, many years ago, but Newton never really played football again. Simmons is dealing with that and coming off of an injury that serious. I couldn't draft him if I was the Houston Texans. I could not, in a situation that is as tenuous and as needle thread necessary for the Texans with their offensive line, I couldn't draft a player that maybe can't help me in 2025 or would be an issue down the road with that injury. And that's why I wouldn't draft Josh Simmons if I was the Houston Texans. I would not go and take that big risk, even though a lot of people believe that Simmons' success at Ohio State is going to translate really well to the NFL level. Some draft prognosticators even believe that Simmons, if healthy, would be the top tackle in this draft. But he's not healthy. If it was a simple ACL injury, it'd be a lot easier to see how you could take this risk. But the patellar tendon injury scares me too much. I know I brought up Derek Newton from a few years ago. That's a longer time ago example. There's two recent examples to really point to for NFL players who played the tackle position that had patellar tendon injuries. One is Jack Conklin, who's the right tackle for the Cleveland Browns. Conklin got hurt late in the season 1 year and missed a couple of weeks at the start of the next year, but ultimately went on to play for the rest of the season and was pretty decent. Now, Conklin was really, really good before the injury, and he's just been okay since. He actually had some of his stats flip. He turned in from a pretty good run blocker to a much better pass blocker once the patellar tendon injury occurred for him. But Conklin's been a case study on recovering from that issue. However, a couple years later, likely due to some of the inconsistencies with his body coming off of that injury, Conklin ended up tearing his knee up again a couple of years later and missing yet another season. So he's dealt with a lot of injuries after that patellar tendon injury. Another example is Kansas City Chiefs tackle Lucas Niang. Niang was really, really good for the Chiefs initially. He tore his patellar tendon and basically hasn't been able to get on the field, hasn't been able to capture anything from his previous success for the Chiefs. And they knew once he got hurt, they had to move quickly. They actually went and got a brand new right tackle after Niang hurt his knee, and he hasn't been the same and really hasn't played much football since his significant knee injury. Now, everybody's different, and Simmons is younger than those guys, and you know that he's going to have the best care to try to get ready from his group, his people, his agents, and all the people that support him. So he's going to have good care in trying to bounce back. Just the history of the injury is something that makes me really uncomfortable, and I wouldn't draft Josh Simmons if I was the Houston Texans. You just can't take that risk if you're the Texans. This player that you draft at 25 has to be ready not only for the offseason when you're putting in a brand new offense and everybody's got to learn it together, he's got to be ready to go in 2025. He's got to be ready to play week 1 of the NFL season there in the second week of September. And you can't guarantee that Josh Simmons is going to be ready. You don't want a setback in minicamp, OTAs, or training camp to ruin that first round pick. I understand the payoff if Simmons is healthy. I get it. I understand he could be a stalwart left tackle or even right tackle for this team for many years. It's just the likely outcome. Now, the most likely outcome is not that he is a lockdown tackle at either of these spots. Plus, the Texans could use somebody who could initially play guard if they want to try out Titus Howard at left tackle or right tackle, or Blake Fisher at left tackle or right tackle. Texans need more guard help and long-term guard help than they need tackle help right now. They've got options to try to figure out the tackle situation. They don't have many guard options, despite trading for one from the Vikings and signing Laken Tomlinson. Ed Ingram was the traded player from the Vikings and signing Laken Tomlinson. A rookie could challenge those players effectively right away with the 25th overall pick at guard. But I don't know that Josh Simmons, coming off of a significant knee injury, could go a long way or could make the long journey into challenging Titus Howard or Blake Fisher right away for the Texans. And one final thing, and I always kind of pay attention. I know that guys don't like to enter this into the conversation. It's just something to think about because ultimately every team's going to do their own look through. But Todd McShay, who, used to be Kiper's partner in this draft process, Todd's back with the ringer. Todd's doing draft analysis again. He's talking to people. And McShay said that there are a lot of character concerns with Josh Simmons, that they're not sure that a team that pours into him is going to get the same level of return from him into them. And then there's some character concerns. And McShay notes he doesn't like dealing in rumor and innuendo, but that's something for teams to think about. And McShay doesn't do it to assassinate a guy's character. He just does it because he's heard that from somebody across the draft circle. So Simmons, significant knee injury. Maybe there's some character concerns. Even if there were character concerns, if he was healthy, I'd draft him. He's just not healthy. And the likelihood of him being healthy soon, it's just really, really low. I'm out on Josh Simmons, the tackle from the Ohio State University, because of the knee injury that he's dealing with. Are you out on him? Would you still draft him? Let me know in the comment section down below on your way down there. Throw me a thumbs up on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Don't forget, channel memberships are open to you. If you ain't Houston, well, that's the subscription level that I recommend for you. There's 3 different levels, various perks. Again, your viewership experience doesn't change if you're not a member. You just get perks, bonuses for signing up as a member and supporting the channel as well. Certainly appreciate you for supporting the channel. However you support it. Just watching it is great support. Liking the video, subscribing to the channel, telling your friends, your family, your enemies, your coworkers who may or may not be football fans, let them all know. Appreciate you watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to go eat some pumpkin pie to really finish off my Mel Kiper cosplay. And I can't wait until we talk Texans and the NFL draft again soon.